Before we go to a break, have a look at this clip of Elon Musk and Donald Trump's son, Barron, having a great time at the inauguration, or at least Musk was. Barron looked pretty serious.
Can I
tell you what, we're going to go to a break.
That is every teenager who is dragged along to one of his dad's work events. That is every teenager.
The next 4 years is going to be a lot of fun.
The public's fascination with Barron Trump has long been a subject of intrigue, a quiet undercurrent running alongside the tumultuous and often polarizing lives of his family members. As the youngest son of former President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump, Barron's existence has largely been shaped by the glare of the media spotlight, even though he has consistently avoided it. Unlike his older siblings, who have made their own marks in the business world, social media, and even politics, Barron has managed to live a life that is largely private. This, in itself, has only fueled the public's curiosity about him. Barron's low-profile lifestyle is in stark contrast to the high-octane world of his family. Growing up in the White House, he spent his formative years away from the cameras, often seen as a child who was more of an observer than a participant. The Trump family was no stranger to the media circus, but Barron, in his early teens, seemed to slip under the radar, especially in comparison to his siblings Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, and Tiffany, all of whom had more defined roles in the public eye. While his mother, Melania, too, maintained a somewhat reserved presence, she was still an iconic figure as First Lady, often making headlines for her fashion choices, her public engagements, and her staunch defense of her privacy. Barron, on the other hand, seemed content to avoid the fray. This quiet existence only seemed to intensify public interest. People began to wonder, what was he like? What were his interests? What kind of person was he growing up to be? Speculations ranged from the lighthearted to the serious, with commentators and the general public dissecting every image of him, whether it was a photo taken at an event, a brief moment captured on social media, or a public appearance at his father's rallies. People wanted to know more about Barron, not because of anything he had done, but simply because he had remained so elusive. The fascination grew particularly after the Trump family left the White House in 2021. While Donald Trump remained in the public eye, making regular headlines for his ongoing political endeavors, Barron continued his life in the background. His choice to attend New York University and his growing interest in technology, video games, and other intellectual pursuits only added to his mystique. He had managed to remain largely unscathed by the controversies surrounding his father and mother, and yet, despite this, the curiosity surrounding his life seemed to grow exponentially. The intrigue surrounding Barron's life wasn't just about his physical appearance or his moments in the spotlight. It was also about what he represented. Barron was the only Trump child who hadn't fully embraced the public eye, and this created an air of mystery that many found appealing. What was he thinking? What did he really want out of life? Was he following in his father's footsteps, or was he carving out a completely different path for himself? In many ways, the public fascination with Barron was a reflection of society's obsession with privacy and autonomy. In an age where everyone's life is on display, Barron represented something rare, a young person who had kept his life largely to himself. This gave him an aura of independence and mystery that people couldn't help but be drawn to. His status as the son of one of the most controversial presidents in modern American history only added to the intrigue. Despite the rumors and speculation that often surrounded him, Barron had remained largely silent on the matter, allowing others to project their ideas onto him while he continued to quietly live his life. This inaction only served to heighten the fascination. The public's need to understand him, to make sense of who he was and what he would become, seemed endless. Whether it was the mystery of his academic achievements, his hobbies, or the way he interacted with his parents, there was always something about Barron Trump that felt just out of reach, something that made people want to keep guessing, keep watching, and keep wondering what the next chapter in his life would be. In the end, Barron's life, as far as the public was concerned, became a blank canvas. People filled it with their own projections, imaginations, and desires. In a world where everyone is trying to make themselves known, Barron Trump's quiet, almost invisible existence became a paradox. The more he remained hidden, the more people wanted to understand him.
President-elect Trump spent Thanksgiving at Mar-a-Lago, where he table danced to YMCA with his self-proclaimed best buddy Elon Musk. One thing not on the menu, though, the fallout over his threat to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
Elon Musk's cryptic remark at the Thanksgiving dinner held at Mar-a-Lago took the world by surprise. As an individual known for his bluntness and occasional controversy, Musk's comment about the youngest member of the Trump family, Barron Trump, raised eyebrows for its unexpected depth and ambiguity. Musk, who had spent much of the evening in conversation with various members of the Trump family, later shared with the media that he had engaged in a thought-provoking discussion with Barron, focusing on two unexpected topics: consciousness and video games. On the surface, the comment seemed innocent enough, almost like an offhand observation. However, knowing Musk's penchant for stirring the pot with his words, it quickly sparked a media frenzy.
This is what victory feels like. Yeah! And this was no ordinary victory. This was a fork in the road of human civilization. Okay. You know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, you know, important, some are not. But this one this one really mattered.
Barron Trump, at 18 years old, had largely stayed out of the public eye. Unlike his older siblings, who were often the center of attention due to their political careers, business endeavors, or social media presence, Barron preferred to live a more reserved life. As the quiet observer of a family that seemed to thrive on controversy and public drama, Barron had earned a reputation for being introspective and elusive, rarely speaking to the media and choosing to focus on his studies at New York University.
A very tall son named Barron. Has anyone ever heard of him?
Musk's words, however, seemed to crack open a door into Barron's world that had previously remained tightly closed. When he mentioned discussing consciousness with Barron, it suggested a level of intellectual curiosity that the public had never associated with the young man before. Consciousness, as a subject, is deeply philosophical and complex, and it immediately raised questions. What could Barron Trump, a teenager who had largely been under the radar, have to say about such a profound topic? Did Musk, with his own well-documented interests in artificial intelligence and the future of humanity, find a like-minded intellectual in Barron? Or was it simply an offhand comment, a fleeting moment that Musk later regretted sharing?
But what to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice. The harder challenge, much harder challenge, is how do people then have meaning? Like a lot of people, they derive their meaning from their employment. If you're not needed, if there's not a need for your labor, what's the meaning? Do you have meaning? Do you feel useless?
The mention of video games added an even more intriguing layer to the conversation. Musk himself is an avid fan of video games, having openly stated in the past that games like Civilization and Kerbal Space Program sparked his interest in technology, engineering, and space exploration. For Barron, the connection between consciousness and video games painted an interesting picture. Could Barron have a similar intellectual bent? Was he drawn to the strategic and problem-solving aspects of games, or perhaps exploring complex, immersive worlds as a form of personal expression? Musk's words left room for speculation, and soon, fans and analysts alike began debating what the conversation might reveal about Barron's character, his potential, and his relationship with Musk. Musk's choice to highlight this conversation was curious in itself. Given the ever-present media scrutiny of the Trump family, particularly their public lives, a discussion that could have remained private instead became a cultural talking point. Was it a deliberate move by Musk to connect with Barron, perhaps offering a subtle mentorship? Or was it simply the result of Musk's unfiltered nature and attempt to describe a quiet moment without fully grasping its ramifications? Whatever his intentions, the cryptic nature of the comment meant that it was open to interpretation, leaving the public to wonder if there was more to Barron than anyone had realized. In a family used to attention, Barron's relatively quiet nature had made him an intriguing figure, one that many had speculated about for years. Musk's words shone a spotlight on him in a way that hadn't happened before, and while Barron appeared unbothered by the ensuing media storm, it was clear that his life was about to change. The cryptic remark became more than just a conversation starter, it became a moment of reckoning, where the public's curiosity about Barron finally found an outlet, fueled by the words of one of the world's most enigmatic tech moguls. The social media reaction to Barron Trump has always been a fascinating reflection of how the digital world engages with the lives of public figures, especially those who, like him, maintain a relatively low profile. From the moment his family entered the political spotlight, the public's thirst for information about Barron grew only amplified by the ever-present nature of social media. As the youngest son of a president who dominated headlines, Barron was often the subject of intense scrutiny, and yet, his own presence on social media remained non-existent. This paradox created a unique dynamic where the online world eagerly filled the void with its own narratives and speculation. The earliest glimpses of Barron online were typically fleeting, an occasional image shared by his parents or a rare public appearance at family events. Social media users, in turn, jumped on these moments, dissecting every detail, whether it was his growing height or his mannerisms. For many, Barron represented a blank slate, and the void left by his silence on social platforms allowed others to project their assumptions onto him. Memes, videos, and even fan theories about his future circulated at a rapid pace, building a growing narrative about who he might become. In a world obsessed with the details of celebrities' lives, the fact that Barron avoided posting or commenting on his own affairs only made him more compelling. Interestingly, the social media reaction wasn't just about curiosity or speculation. It also sparked a wave of protective sentiment from users. Many expressed a deep desire to shield Barron from the online vitriol often directed at his family. His status as a teenager, trying to grow up in the spotlight of a turbulent presidency, led to calls for greater respect for his privacy. Social media users, especially those on platforms like Twitter and Instagram, often took to their feeds to remind others that Barron had the right to a childhood free from unwanted attention. These posts highlighted his youthful innocence, drawing a stark contrast between the child and the controversies surrounding his father. However, not all the reactions were positive. As is common with public figures, especially those associated with political families, there were also negative comments. Barron's quiet presence in a polarizing political landscape made him an easy target for both supporters and detractors of the Trump family. His image became politicized, whether by critics who blamed him for the actions of his father or by those who expressed admiration for his distance from the public fray. It became clear that in the world of social media, where everything is connected and everyone is entitled to their opinion, no one could escape being caught in the crossfire of public opinion. Yet there was something uniquely powerful about Barron's ability to remain absent from the online conversation. In an era where so many young celebrities feel compelled to share every aspect of their lives on platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, Barron's decision to stay out of the spotlight stood in stark contrast. For some, this was seen as a breath of fresh air, a reminder that not every aspect of life needs to be lived out loud, especially for those still growing into adulthood. For others, it was a challenge to the culture of celebrity, a rebellion against the idea that being famous necessarily means being constantly accessible and transparent. In a way, Barron's absence from social media allowed his family's followers and critics to project even more onto him. The more he stayed silent, the more people seemed to fill the silence with their own imaginations. This phenomenon is not uncommon in the age of social media, where speculation often outweighs the truth. Social media users didn't just speculate about Barron's future or interests, they also created entire narratives about him, imagining how he might one day enter the public eye, whether through business, politics, or even in a completely different field. As time went on, Barron's occasional public appearances, such as at his father's rallies or during major family events, were met with both curiosity and admiration from a digital audience. People shared pictures of him, noting how much he had grown, and many saw these moments as rare glimpses into the life of someone who had largely kept a low profile. In some ways, these rare interactions with Barron fueled even more online speculation. Social media, with its instantaneous and all-encompassing nature, seemed to turn these brief moments into cultural events, dissecting his expressions, his interactions, and even the way he carried himself in public. Ultimately, the social media reaction to Barron Trump is a testament to the power of both silence and visibility in the modern digital world. While Barron has chosen to stay away from engaging with the public through these platforms, his mere existence has been enough to generate endless conversation. His life, perhaps more than any other, demonstrates how social media can create its own narrative, one that blends curiosity, speculation, admiration, and criticism. In this ever-connected world, Barron's story is still unfolding, even if it's written by those who don't know him personally, but rather through the lens of what they imagine him to be. Mae Musk, the mother of Elon Musk, is a woman who has navigated the public eye with grace, elegance, and a remarkable sense of self-awareness. Throughout her life, she has balanced her roles as a model, a dietitian, and a mother to some of the most well-known figures of our time, including Elon Musk. Her response to public scrutiny, whether it's about her family, her career, or her personal life, has often been measured, thoughtful, and laced with a dry sense of humor. In the years following the meteoric rise of her son, May Musk's own presence in the media grew. Initially, she had been a model and businesswoman in her own right, quietly living a life centered around family and professional pursuits. However, as Elon's career soared to heights that made him one of the most talked-about figures in the world, May became a somewhat reluctant figure in the limelight. Despite her initial hesitation, she found herself increasingly called upon for commentary, whether it was about Elon's ventures, her life as a mother, or her perspective on the rapidly changing world of technology. Her response to these increasing demands for her attention was a unique blend of stoicism and humor. When asked about her son's outlandish ambitions or his controversial remarks, she often responded with a refreshing candor, recognizing both the brilliance and the eccentricities of Elon's character without losing her own voice. May's perspective was that of a mother who knew her son intimately, but also understood the importance of letting him forge his own path, regardless of how unconventional it might be. One of the more notable aspects of May Musk's public responses was her ability to convey warmth and compassion for her son, while also setting clear boundaries about her own space in the public sphere. She frequently used her platform to assert that her identity was not solely defined by her son's success, despite the obvious public fascination with their relationship. In interviews, she often shared stories about her own career, her experiences as a single mother raising 3 children, and how she came to terms with both the triumphs and challenges in her life. When it came to Barron Trump, May's response was similarly nuanced. Given the media attention that Barron often attracted due to his father's political career, May Musk's reaction to the young Trump situation reflected her own understanding of the pressures placed on children in the public eye. Her empathy towards Barron's experience was apparent, as she acknowledged how difficult it could be to grow up under intense scrutiny, especially when the spotlight isn't something you've sought. May Musk's response to public fascination, however, also pointed to a broader understanding of the dynamics of fame and family. As a mother who had been in the public eye herself for decades, she knew the weight of constant attention and the toll it could take on family members. May consistently reiterated that while she was proud of her son and his accomplishments, she wanted to be known for her own work and contributions. She understood that fame, even that of a son as high-profile as Elon, comes with a heavy price, and she was not one to shy away from discussing its impacts. Throughout her life, May had been the subject of media coverage, but often for reasons that were distinct from those surrounding Elon. As an accomplished model and businesswoman in her own right, she was well aware of the complexity that comes with being linked to someone else's fame. Yet, she managed to avoid being reduced to just Elon's mother. Her response to her role in the public's eye was clear. She wasn't going to be just a bystander to her son's journey. She was going to live her own life, speaking on her own terms. May Musk's reaction to social media was also a story of adaptation. In an era where everything can be captured in an instant and shared with millions, May chose to navigate the world of online attention with discretion. While her son Elon was an active participant in the fast-paced world of social media, May remained relatively low-key. Her occasional posts were thoughtful, often showcasing her travels, her work, and reflections on her life. Her presence on platforms like Twitter and Instagram conveyed a quiet confidence, underscoring that she was not interested in performing for an audience, but instead in offering glimpses into her life on her own terms. May Musk's responses to the various media events surrounding her family, and specifically to the attention surrounding Barron Trump, were a reflection of her broad worldview. She understood the complexities of public life, the importance of privacy, and the need for resilience in the face of constant scrutiny. Her approach to handling the spotlight was a lesson in how to maintain one's dignity, while navigating a world that often expects too much of those in the public eye. Her response to any conversation about Barron Trump, or any of the young children who grow up in the shadow of fame, was thoughtful and protective, underscoring her belief that young people deserve the space to grow and evolve without the weight of public expectation constantly looming over them. Like her son Elon, May's own legacy would ultimately be defined by her ability to stay true to herself, even when the world around her was anything but predictable.